Back, y'all, to part 3 of how to train your coon dog solo. Training a coon dog solo is an amazing process. It takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot more time than it does to just shove a dog in the woods with some other dogs. But I think they make amazing dogs. So we're going to keep talking about how to solo out a coon dog and not even solo out, how to full blown train a solo dog. Um, so last video we're talking about, we talked a little bit about the tree. But this video, we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about the next step in the process, and this is where a lot of the most important stuff comes from. We're doing all of our training at night at this point. We're on to fresh dead coons at this point. Um, we're still putting a string on that coon and we're still running it up and down the tree and still coaxing our dog and hyping our dog up and make sure it's treeing hard for that and really wanting after that. Now, switching over to a dead coon can be kind of a surprise for some dogs, especially depending on what kind of coon scent that you got. But don't worry about that. They obviously smell a little bit different because they have life on them. So we're gonna get us a dead coon. We're gonna introduce it to the pup. We're gonna coax our puppy into barking at this. How I like to do it is when you first get the coon, you want a really fresh one. You don't want one that's been sitting on the road for a week, because they smell rotten. So we're gonna get ourselves a fresh coon. We're gonna introduce it to the dog. If it's smaller pup, they might be really inquisitive and really just want to keep their nose on it and smell it, be leery, not want to, do too much with it, not put their mouth on it and stuff like that. But that's our first step when we introduce the fresh coon to the puppy, is we want the pup to chew on that coon, and that is going to set your pup up for future because it's going to not have that fear to go ahead and chomp on that coon and feel secure that it's got its job done. Like it can protect itself against the coon, and it's also preparing it out of the stuffed animal into the coon. So now we have a full-fledged coon. We got our puppy. We got our puppy comfortable with it. We got our puppy chasing it around. We got our puppy smelling all over it. We got our puppy chewing all over it. And we're just going to throw it in a tree and we're going to let them bark at it. Okay, so this is where the tree part comes up here. Take that dead coon, throw it right into a tree. Try to get them barking on it as soon as you can. If you can't get them doing it by throwing it in a tree and getting them treeing on it immediately, you're going to leash them back, work with them on it, and see if they will go ahead and start letting off some barks at this coon. Every time they bark at it, give them a little taste of it and get them really wanting to go for it, And then we're going to run drags with that coon, and we're going to throw it up in the tree, and we're going to get our pup over to the tree, and we're going to really praise our puppy for wanting that coon and barking at it. And the more it barks, the better we're going to praise it. We're going to drop that coon up and down that tree, get her really going for it, and we're going to run drags, probably 3 or 4 drags. And then what we can do now, see, there's a little bit of a process because you're working on borrowed time with a dead coon. So first day is fine to run it, not preserved. If you're gonna have to run it for another day, or you want to work them another day to really solidify and make sure that they're running out there and hitting that tree, throw it in the freezer, put it in a garbage bag, put it in the freezer, bring it back out, run them some more, and then just keep freezing it for as long as you need it to work them through that. And that should keep it fresh enough with some good scent on it. I wouldn't keep onto it for too long after running too many drags, because you get a whole bunch of different smells on them dragging them through the woods and stuff like that. So you don't want to diminish the fresh coon smell on them. And you can repeat this process until you're satisfied with your dog. But you can only use the freshest of coons. But we're gonna get that dog really revving on the tree. At this stage, I told you I was gonna touch a little bit on tracking. Some dogs, they won't develop a mouth when they're running track, and this video is going to they're all kind of the same video, but this is the stage where you kind of can figure that out. Take that coon and just run around, just take off with it. If that pup's barking, just take that coon and run off with it. And if it's barking while it's chasing that coon, pretty good indicator that they're going to run track when they get in the woods and actually smell a coon. It's the same thing that you would do with a cage coon. Now, at this point in time, when you ran drags on the stuffed animal, there's a small chance that you could take your dog to the woods and it could tree up, right? But being that you started at 3 months old, you don't want your pup going up against a coon. If you're going to do that after the drag stages, make sure you're staying hot on the tail of that puppy so it's not going to bump a coon and get itself tore up and get put off for God knows how long. But now we're on to the dead coons. If it's treeing a dead coon, a fresh dead one, and you're throwing it up in the tree and it's going to slam the tree. Now, once we graduated out of the stuffed animal, when we're doing the dead coon stuff, you can do a first couple that they can see it, but after that first initial couple where they've got it down, you're going to put that coon in that tree where they cannot see that coon. And this is going to help them build the confidence of their nose that my nose says he's up here, this is where I tree, instead of my eyes tell me it's up here, this is where I tree. So you're going to want to make sure they cannot see the coon, the dead coon, when you're running drags for them. And make sure that you're blowing past the tree, you're not doubling back on your own stuff, and make sure your dogs are running the coon tracks, not you. Because the next stage that you're going to get into is you're going to get into showing them a live coon. Okay, so up until this point, and people don't tend to not get this, but up until this point, anything you do with your puppy with a coon, your scent is there. So when you take your pup in the woods and expect it to do so much better, your scent's not there with the coon scent. So they're used to smelling you and this coon every time they're doing good stuff. And they get in the woods and they say, I might smell half of what I'm supposed to be looking for, but I don't. So we're going to try, we got to wean them off of your scent. And working them at night and stuff gets them out in the woods and gets them off away from you and stuff like that. So by this point, you should be able to have your dog in the woods and them take off on you solo, doesn't matter really how far, but they'll get off away from you and search around and do stuff like this. And you should be taking your dog in the woods if you're getting them treeing dead coons. So right now, if you got them on dead coon, fresh dead coons, there's a high chance that they might go ahead and go and tree up and get you a coon. Especially if they're really into the dead coon. If they're really letting it rip on that coon, they might really have a high percentage chance to go out and tree something. But same difference after the stuffed animal, same difference after the dead coon. Now we're going to move on to the cage coon, the live coon. This one is the biggest, touchiest subject I've ever heard in the coon hunting world. Me, myself, personally, I only ever show 3 coons. I will not show a dog more than 3 cage coons. I think any more than that, and it's just pointless if that dog ain't got it clicked by now what it's looking for after seeing 3 cage coons. You might just have a junk dog. But there's a caveat to that. I'll show a dog 3 cage coons, but I'll show them about 3 days at a time. So if I get a cage coon, I'll work my dog for about 3 days, sometimes 4, with that cage coon, because you can't waste this coon. You don't want to waste coons because it's a really good opportunity for your dog to really solidify and get that run in them. But what we're going to do is we're going to take that cage coon. We're going to show them the cage coon. Some dogs might not want to take to it right away. Some dogs might take right to it. We're going to coax our dogs into doing that by either leashing them back. Another thing that I would do is get up on the cage and kick at the cage until the coon really starts puffing up and going at you. Really just based on the judgment of your pup, how he reacts. If it's really just, I don't want no part of that, I'm scared to death of it, you might have to wait on that dog a little while. But one way or another, we're going to get our pup slamming that cage and really wanting that coon out of that cage. Once we get that, we're going to repeat the whole process. We're going to run our drags at night. We're going to run our surprise drags. We're going to hide it where they can't see it in the tree. We're going to probably put it up way higher in the tree, especially because it's a live one. And maybe like the first two or three, let them see it. After that, don't let them see it. run surprise drags on them, and surprise drags are the dog doesn't know it's there. So I don't think I really touched on that in the last video, but I'm going to go ahead and touch on that now. Surprise drag, two different kinds of drags. You have the drag that the dog knows about. So you've had the dog, they know that you got something. You know you got a coon, or you got the drag, or you got the live coon, and they know it, and they've been barking at it, and you've warmed them up on it, and then you ran a drag. Okay, that's just a regular old drag. The surprise drag is I leave my dog in the box, I get my coon, I go out and I run a drag for them and hide it where they can't see it up in the tree, and then I go get my dog and I cut my dog on the track. They have no idea that they had no idea it was coming. So it's a real good way to tell if they're ready to just go ahead and activate when they smell and say, oh, hunt and find, because this is another key thing that you want instilled in your dog, is that I don't have to be put onto something to go ahead and just go do it. So it's really good check for the motivation of your dog. And maybe the first couple surprise drags, I mean, you can only get one surprise drag a day. You have the opportunity for one surprise drag. After you get your surprise drag out of the way, you can start running regular drags. Depending on how the dog's doing, like if the dog's like really taking to it and just don't need any help and performs well, you might as well just move right on to the end of the cage coon. If it needs work, you got a couple of days to keep showing it. This is all at nighttime. You want to show it at nighttime besides the first day. If the first time it sees it, you want it to be in the daytime so you can really pay attention to your dog and how it's going to act. But that first day, you can show them the cage coon, get them rolling on it, put the coon up, put the dog up. When it gets nighttime, get out there and run a drag for it. Warm it up first. And then the second day, you can run the surprise drag and run a few drags for it. And then the third day, depending on how the dog performed, give it what it needs. So I'll save this little tip for the very end. Well, anyway, so now that you've got the dog nailing the tree, it's performing the way it's supposed to perform, it's letting loose on the coon how it's supposed to let loose, we're going to go ahead and we're going to let the coon out. You can do this just really based on the judgment of your dog. You can do it without letting the dog know, but I would almost let the dog know that the coon's there before you cut it out. Have it in the cage, have the dog work on it. That's what I call working a dog, work the dog on a cage. Before you cut the coon out, leash the dog back, cut the coon out, wait about 5 minutes. Here's the biggest tip that you're going to need for this is when you cut that coon out and that coon takes off, pick your cage up and take it to the truck, or pick your cage up and put it somewhere your dog's not going to get stubbed up on it, because some dogs, they'll just hit right back to that cage and they won't end up leaving that cage. They won't even pay attention. It'll go right over their head that the coon left, or they'll sit there and bark at that cage because it smells like coons, you know. So put that cage up, get it out of the way, cut your dog off on the track, sit back and wait on them, and you should go ahead and go out there and slam that tree. And depending on your, how stringent you were and strict you were on what success is for your dog running a track, that dog should not miss that coon. Some coons will run them to death. Some coons will just straight out slick them. But, I mean, for the most part, that dog shouldn't miss. And you need to have your gun ready, and you need to shoot that dog out for that coon. Or that coon out for that dog. And this is what we're going to talk about right here. And that is, let your dog tree. Encourage your dog to tree. Let him tree after you even get eyes on him, let him tree for a few minutes before you even shine. You can shine a little bit, but stay afar. Don't let him come off. Don't coax him off the tree. Don't let him stay on the tree. And either you shine the coon and you know what's up there, or, you don't know. Just go in there and leash your dog and leash it back while you're shining or finish shining up the tree. We're going to leash your dog back because this is what we're going to prevent. Okay, so you have to prevent this. A dog can be gun shy, and dogs get scared of that coon hitting the ground because it makes a big thud, especially pups. So last thing you need is your dog to do all this fantastic work and then get it to the tree and shoot the gun and he disappears, he runs off, or the coon hits the ground and he disappears and runs off. So we're going to leash our dog back so he can't get run off, We're going to encourage our dog to keep barking while we're shooting, and once the coon hits the ground, we're going to encourage our dog to keep barking, and then once he keeps barking, we're going to go ahead and cut the dog off and let him go ahead and get a piece of the action and get his coon. After this point in time, you got a dog that you can run, a dog that should tree coons. If he comes across a hot one, you're so prepped and ready. Right here at this stage, after that, you're at the highest risk of your dog treeing trash. So we're going to talk about your dog treeing trash a little bit, especially at that stage. If your dog trees trash at that stage, just leash them and take them off the tree. Don't scold them. Don't do nothing. There's going to be no reaction. There's going to be no reward. There's going to be no scolding, because you don't want to scold all that training you just put in them out of them the very first time that they run out there. So your dog runs out there and trees trash, then don't scold them. If your dog trees trash on the ground in a hole, or if your dog runs something across the ground and you see it running on the ground, I mean, like deer, correct them immediately. If it's a possum on the ground, correct them. If it's a porcupine on the ground, correct them. If it's a squirrel on the ground, correct them. But if they've got something treed, don't correct them on that tree, because we're going to work that out of them at a later date by our reaction at the tree, whether it's a coon or not. And that's no reaction versus high praise if it's a coon and they actually get shot down to them. Make sure you get the coons down to your dogs. I mean, this is a long, stringent process. You might have a dog that's more difficult or more hard to work with, but just rinse and repeat that process with the cage coon up to like 3 times, and probably once every couple months. You want to make sure you got your dog in the woods a lot, especially after that first cage coon, especially if it was a success and they treated the cutout. This is your dog's going to be primed and ready to slam trees, because once that coon comes out of that cage, your scent ain't with it, and that dog's all about the coon at that point, and you've graduated coon hunting school, so you should be ready to slam them trees. If your tree's trash, don't give it a reaction, just kick them off the tree and dispatch off away from the tree. And if you want, take them somewhere else, cut them loose somewhere else, and just hope for that coon. That first coon that they get, you definitely want to shoot that one out for sure, because they might not tree another one for a long time, and you really want to use that as an advantage. But thanks for stopping by, man. Tip about tuning up your dog. Let's say you've ran your dog after the first cage coon and you notice, oh, my dog's not, he's running a lot of track but he's not treeing. Take that next cage coon you get, do a day of tree work where you're only working that dog on the tree. Or you get a dog and you're saying, well, he's not running track very well. What you're going to do is you're going to get that cage coon, you're going to clip the leash on it, and you're going to run with that straight across the yard in a straight line and let that dog chase after it and bark at it, and then you're going to work it on the tree after that. But some dogs just need a little bit of refresher, a little bit of tune up. They get out there and they go, well, dang, I ain't seen a coon or smelt a coon in a month. I don't remember what I'm supposed to do. When I do, maybe they won't hit that tree so hard. Maybe they're leaving the tree real early. Just work them. Next time you get a cage coon, put them on the tree. Work them real good on the tree. If they're not running track heavy like you want them to. I mean, you can make a dog overly mouthy on track by running that cage across the ground a lot, and you can make a dog too tree-minded and not enough track-minded if you overwork them on the tree. So it's a good balance. But one thing you can't have enough of is that mouth. So thanks for stopping by. I hope you guys liked this video on how to solo out a coon dog.